Hey everybody, welcome back to Adventures with Spackmann. Did this just become my favorite hot tent? Yep. Let's make a cup of coffee and talk about why. So this is the OneTigris Tegimen hammock hot tent. You don't have to use it for a hammock. Last night I used it with a cot. It worked great. With cots, I think you can fit 2 people very comfortably in here, possibly 3. I don't know about sitting in here with 3 people, unless you pack up all the cots. Even with 2 cots, you'd have to pick up 1 bed to fit 2 chairs in here to sit next to the fire. This is a pretty big tent. So now let's go into the features of this tent. But before we do that, I want to thank Epic Water Filters for hydrating this video. Epic Water Filter is US made, it's 100% recyclable. Even their bottles are from Nalgene, which are made in the United States too. Their filters are made right in Colorado, and Nalgene bottles are made right here in New York State. Each one of their adventure filters can save up to 750 plastic bottles from the landfill. So not only are you drinking delicious water, you're also helping the environment by getting rid of some plastic. My first ever affiliate link will be in the description down below. If you use code Spackmann, you'll get 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Epic Water Filter, for sponsoring this video. Let's find out the dimensions of this tent. We're looking at 6 feet 8 inches wide. I don't know if I have it set up 100% correctly, but it is 6 feet 8 inches wide. That's a pretty wide tent. Let's find out the length. I'm gonna call that 10.5 feet long. I can stand up in here. I don't know if you can see my head. And how I have it set up right now, each end is 6 feet 1 inch tall. This is a decent size hot tent, guys, and it's pretty budget friendly. I bought this from Facebook Marketplace. I got it for $100 with a few other pieces of gear. Now it is used, so I'm not gonna put it up against a Spackmann water torture test because it just wasn't kept in the best condition, if you ask me. And I don't think it's fair to OneTigris if I test this tent specifically because it was used. I don't know what happened to it prior to me getting it, but it definitely came with a caterpillar infestation. I soaked it in Dawn dish soap for days to try to kill everything that was in it. I want to give a shout out to the guy who sold it to me. That was Tony Hill. Thank you, Tony, for selling me this tent. I've only used it once so far, and it's become my favorite hot tent. It's got some cool features. Okay, and let's get into those. Each end has zippered doors, and they have 3 zippers per door. Let me show you what they do. Starting at the top, there's 2 zippers, one that comes down from the top and one that goes up to the top. This is for your hammock to go through when you set it up for a hammock. It also has the zipper down at the bottom that opens the door completely open. The hammock zippers are a good way to vent the tent when it gets too hot or to hang your hammock. Each set of doors has these tie-out spots. Not tie-out, tie-up spots. This is a first for a tent that I've ever seen. It has adjustable cord locks for the door strings. That's pretty cool. And they're just squeeze. You squeeze them and they move. That's a pretty cool feature. Another cool feature of this hot tent, this comes with 2 stove jacks. One up high for a vertical stovepipe, or one down below for a horizontal 45-degree angle stovepipe for your smaller stoves or for ones that you want to go out sideways to prevent sparks and drippage from creosote onto your tent. I like 45-degree elbows on my stoves, and this is a cool option that it comes with both of them. Last night was my first time using this hot tent. At some point, all the snow melted underneath my stove, which shifted my pipe and ended up melting the stove jack flap. I ended up cutting it off because, it's a hot tent. I'm gonna use it as a hot tent, so I'm not really gonna use it with this covered up. I don't know when it happened, but it happened sometime in the middle of the night last night. Other than that, the tent did great. I should have paid way better attention to that, and maybe it needs to be tied up to the top after you roll it up. Grab the toggle, then tie it up to the ridge line to prevent that from happening to you. Do I think that's a con of the tent? No, that's a con of me. That's my bad. This is another cool feature. To set this tent up, I ran my tree hugger hammock straps from 2 trees that way and this way, and then I carabined them to the attachment point on the tent. This attachment point is wicked cool because it's adjustable. It has this buckle right here that allows you to loosen and tighten your ridge line. Nice and tight now. I'm using Unigear's tarp poles to support this tent on either end, and I really like it with the poles at the end, better than just running a ridge line. This gives it much more stability, and in my opinion, it's better with poles than without poles. Do you need poles? Absolutely not. Run a ridge line between 2 trees and hang your tent. Setup of this tent was pretty easy. I first closed the doors and then I staked out all 4 corners. Then I attached my hammock straps to the ridge line, put up the poles, and then you guy out the walls. There's vertical walls that give this a wall tent feel, and it's pretty cool. Each one of the guy out spots for it have elastic bands for wind so that you don't tear the tent and it's less stress on the joint points. Every one of them have this, and that is a really cool feature. This tent was designed by Jeremy from Lone Wolf 902. He had a falling out with OneTigris in the middle of designing this tent. Actually at the end of designing this tent. So you can see each one of these tents have a panel cut out of them, and then OneTigris's logo was stuck onto it. This used to have Lone Wolf's logo right here on either side, and now it's just a OneTigris tent. But Jeremy designed this, and he did a really good job designing this tent. And it's becoming my favorite hot tent, guys. This is really cool. The whole tent has a snow skirt all the way around it, even the doors. So for this doorway, I left this snow skirt uncovered, but covered this side, so this door is in place, and this is how I get in and out. Snow skirt all the way around it, closed it up completely. It was wicked hot in here last night, hot in here this morning. Now let's check out the inside. Very surprised I didn't just burn myself. Last night I was set up in the back of the tent. You could fit a cot going lengthwise. You could fit 2 cots going sideways right here, right next to each other if you're here with your spouse or you just want to be closer to the other person. Or if you don't want to be closer to the other person, one person sets up along the wall and the other one sets up along the back wall. Condensation last night wasn't a huge problem. There was condensation. Obviously, when you're evaporating snow from the ground or any moisture from the ground, it's got to go somewhere and it collects in your tent. Same with your breath. Still, nylon tents have a problem with condensation. That's not a fault of this tent. It's just a fault of winter camping. That's something you have to deal with. This stove in a closed-in, this is the first time I've had this stove in an actual closed-in hot tent, and it did amazing. I was so hot in here last night. I was down to 1 layer, just chilling in here. I don't know how long it burned for. It didn't burn all night. The stove is not an all-night burning stove. I'd say it's meant for cooking and for high heat output with a minimum amount of wood. And in this tent, which is a pretty big hot tent in my opinion, it did a great job last night. This tent all around did a great job. I'm gonna be comparing this hammock hot tent to the Pomali hammock hot tent, both designed by Lone Wolf 902. And when I do that, I'll have a link to that video right here when it's up. Thanks for joining me on this tent adventure. See you guys next time. This stove is freaking awesome too.